At my unexpected 35th birthday celebration, my sister seized the microphone first. "Let's raise a glass to the one who bankrolled my wedding, my education, and my home," she grinned slyly. "Happy birthday to our family's benefactor." Some guests laughed lightly. I offered a tight smile, took the mic from her, and murmured, "Not anymore." I slid a sealed envelope to my attorney and gave a single nod. 20 minutes later, every phone in the room buzzed. At my surprise 35th birthday party, the atmosphere was heavy with polite chuckles and clinking drinks. My sister, Leela, grabbed the microphone before I could even settle into a chair. She always loved being the first to speak in any crowd, especially when the attention wasn't meant for her. To my amazing brother, she sang, holding her glass aloft. "Here's to the man who paid for my wedding, my degree, and my apartment. Honestly, where would we be without our family's provider?" She smirked, and a few people chuckled awkwardly. I smiled, the kind of calm, rehearsed smile I'd used so many times to mask the sting of her words. Then I rose, approached the mic, and gently took it from her. "Thank you for the warm words, Leela," I said softly, then leaned closer. But just so everyone's clear, I paused, locking eyes with our mother, our father, then Leela. "Not anymore." A moment of silence hung in the air. I reached into my jacket, handed a sealed envelope to my lawyer, who had been standing quietly by the bar, unnoticed until that moment. He nodded, slipped it into his briefcase, and left without a word. 20 minutes later, every phone in the room lit up. I watched the ripple effect. Guests pulling out their devices from bags and pockets, brows furrowing, scrolling. A few glanced my way, some gasped. Someone near the back whispered, "Oh my gosh," and just like that, the silence returned. A sharper, heavier kind of quiet. I hadn't always planned to be my family's financial lifeline. It just happened. Growing up, I was the problem solver, the dependable one, the kid with perfect grades, a job at 16 who paid for his own college applications and never missed a rent payment. Leela, she was the dreamer. She dropped out of 2 colleges, married a guy she met at a music festival, divorced him within 6 months, then came home sobbing about having no savings or direction. I covered her first month's rent. That was the beginning. At the time, I'd just landed my first big promotion. I was thrilled, associate director at a mid-sized tech company. I felt like I could finally relax a bit, support my family, be the person they could count on. So when Leela called one night, crying about not being able to finish her art degree because her loans fell through, I said I'd cover it. Just this once, I told myself. It wasn't. Over the next 5 years, just this once became a cycle. $3,200 for her tuition. $8,000 for her wedding when her fiancé's family couldn't contribute. $1,500 to repair her car after she crashed into a pole while texting. $2,400 when she decided to quit her job to rediscover herself. Each time it came with some version of "I'll pay you back soon," or "This is just temporary." The repayment never arrived. My parents didn't help matters. "You're the reliable one," my mom always said. "She's just struggling a bit more than you are." A bit. My father stayed mostly silent. He just gave me these looks like I owed them, like my success was somehow their doing, and helping Leela was just my way of repaying them. Never mind that I'd worked 2 jobs through college while they bought Leela a laptop for her art projects, which sat unused for months while she painted abstract shapes and called it self-discovery. Still, I kept giving. Because when you're the one who has it together, everyone assumes you can handle more. But it wasn't just Leela. Eventually, my parents started relying on me too. When Dad's business hit a slump, he called and asked if I could lend him $10,000. Just until next quarter. I sent the money that afternoon. When Mom needed help with medical expenses, I paid without hesitation. I wasn't wealthy. I just planned carefully, skipped luxuries, and said no to things I wanted so I could say yes to them. And honestly, I didn't mind at first. It felt good to be needed. It felt like I'd earned their respect. But over time, things changed. Gratitude turned into entitlement. Leela stopped asking and started expecting. "We're planning a trip to Bali. Can you cover the flights? I'm thinking of moving again. Can you co-sign my lease? I need a new laptop. My old one's too slow for my creative process." I started saying no more often. That's when the guilt trips began. "Oh, so now you're too successful for your own family. Don't forget who raised you. You think your achievements came from thin air." I still remember one night 2 years ago when I'd just gotten home from a 12-hour workday and Leela texted, "Urgent, please call." My stomach sank. I called right away, fearing something awful had happened. Her emergency? She needed $500 for a last-minute tattoo removal appointment because she had a job interview and didn't want to look unprofessional. I said no. She sobbed. Then texted Mom, who called me saying, "Just help your sister. She's trying her best." I nearly laughed. Her best. That's when the cracks started forming for me. When I realized I was being emotionally manipulated by my entire family. But the real tipping point came last year. I'd spent months planning a trip to Japan, my first proper vacation in nearly a decade. Everything was set. Flights, hotels, itineraries. I was counting down the days. 3 days before my departure, Leela called, crying. She'd been evicted. Again, she needed a place to stay. And somehow that place was supposed to be my apartment. "But I'm leaving," I said. "You can stay with Mom and Dad." They refused, she sniffled. "Please, just leave me the keys. I'll be gone before you return." Against my better instincts, I agreed. When I returned 2 weeks later, my apartment was a wreck. My bathroom sink was broken, the freezer was left open, and my favorite watch, a gift from my late grandfather, was gone. She claimed she had no clue what happened. Maybe the door wasn't locked. That night I sat in the dark for 2 hours, staring at the wall. I was finished. Done being the fallback plan, done being the fixer, done being the family's bank account. So I started planning, discreetly. I began collecting receipts, emails, and texts. I made copies of bank transfers, created a spreadsheet, and documented every payment, every gift, every favor. Then I contacted a lawyer. At first, he seemed puzzled. "This isn't against the law," he said. "I know," I replied. "But it's done, and I want it formalized." We drafted a cease and desist letter, nothing aggressive. Just a formal statement declaring that I would no longer provide financial support to any family member and that further requests would be considered harassment. It felt harsh, but I needed boundaries, real ones. Then I planned the birthday party, not because I wanted a celebration, but because I wanted witnesses. The room fell silent after the phones buzzed. Guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure what to say. Some whispered. A few edged toward the walls as if bracing for the roof to cave in. Leela's smile faltered first. "What was that?" she asked, still clutching her champagne glass. Her voice trembled now. The smirk had vanished. I stepped back to the mic, but I didn't need it anymore. The room was already focused on me. That, I said, was a formal notice from my attorney. Effective immediately, I'm done providing financial support to anyone in this family. Gasps. You'd think I'd announced a death. Leela's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the end," I said, "of being treated like a cash machine, of carrying everyone's burden so you don't have to grow up." "You're joking," she said, her voice rising. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm completely serious." Leela stormed toward me, her heels clicking sharply. "You're just going to cut me off? After everything?" "Everything." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the debts I've covered for a decade? The apartment, the tuition, the wedding, the bailouts?" Her face flushed. "That was one time. I didn't waver. One time too many." My dad finally spoke from the side. "Son, this isn't how we handle things in our family." "No, Dad, you're right. We don't handle anything in this family. You just pass it to me and expect it to magically resolve itself." "You're overreacting," my mom said softly. "This is your birthday. Can't we just celebrate?" I turned to her. "Do you even know how many times I've canceled my own plans because one of you needed something?" Silence. Leela needed rent. Dad needed a loan. You needed help with medical bills. And I gave. Every single time. I scanned the room. Aunts, cousins, colleagues, all now awkwardly staring at their screens or their drinks. "Leela," I said, turning back to her. "Do you know what I was doing the night before your wedding?" She blinked. "What?" "I was working. Because you didn't have enough to cover the catering. I stayed up all night on a project to earn a bonus so you wouldn't be embarrassed walking down the aisle." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "I canceled my own vacation for you. I gave up a down payment for a house so you could finish your degree. And what do I get?" I said thank you, she mumbled, once, over text. I looked around the room again. "None of you have asked how I'm doing in years. You just assume I'll manage, and I have, but not anymore." "Wait," Leela said, "what about my kids? You're just going to abandon your niece and nephew?" "Don't," I said firmly. "Do not bring your children into this. You think this makes you noble?" She snapped. "Sending a letter, causing a scene? I'm not trying to be noble," I said. "I'm just done being your crutch." "That's cold," my dad said. "No," I replied. "What's cold is using someone until they break and then calling them selfish when they stop." Leela looked ready to scream. "You'll regret this. Families stick together." "No," I said. "Healthy families lift each other up. This has been a one-sided deal." I pulled out my phone and opened a message thread with Leela. "January 5th, I said, $1,200 for your rent. March 18th, $800 for car repairs. May 2nd, $1,000 for emergency vet bills that turned out to be for a spa getaway. Want me to keep going?" "Stop," she said through clenched teeth. "I have every receipt, every payment, every email." You think I wasn't keeping track? You're making a spectacle, my mom said. No, I said calmly, I'm setting a boundary. Someone in the back cleared their throat. It was my cousin Ethan, who had been silent all night. Honestly, he said, I admire your courage. My brother's been mooching off me for years. This is bold. Leela turned to him. Really? More murmurs spread through the room. I realized then it wasn't just me. People were listening. And not everyone was judging. My lawyer had ensured the notice went to every major family contact. Anyone who had borrowed from me or benefited indirectly received the message. It wasn't just a letter. It was a line drawn in the sand. You'll regret this, Leela repeated, quieter now, almost a whisper. I shrugged. I already regret letting it go on this long. Then I turned off the mic, handed it to the DJ, and walked out. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. Just calm, certain, because for the first time in my life I wasn't apologizing for setting a limit, and it felt right. I didn't return to the party. Didn't respond to the dozen texts Leela sent within the hour. Didn't answer my mom's voicemail claiming I'd humiliated the family. Instead, I went home, kicked off my shoes, fed my dog, and watched a documentary. For the first time in years, the knot in my chest was gone. The next morning, I woke up to 87 unread messages. Some were from distant relatives. A few were supportive. I had no idea it was that bad, or proud of you. Others, not so much. Uncle Mark called me ungrateful. Aunt Sarah said I'd ruined the family bond, but most stayed silent. Leela, of course, flooded my phone. Her messages went from furious to guilt-tripping to desperate. I didn't mean it like that. You know I love you. We can work this out, right? The kids don't understand why you're being so harsh. If you don't help, I don't know how we'll get by. It was always the same pattern. Flattery, panic, pressure, but I didn't respond. Instead, I sent one final message. I wish you the best, but my answer is still no. Then I blocked her. I thought I'd feel guilty. But all I felt was relief. The fallout came fast. My parents didn't take it well. My dad sent a long text about how family doesn't abandon each other, ending with, "You'll always be my son, but I'm disappointed." My mom called every day for a week. I didn't pick up. Finally, she left a voicemail saying, "We're not perfect, but we're still your parents. Don't cut us off." They still didn't understand. I wasn't cutting anyone off. I was just done being used. Eventually, the calls stopped. For the first time in my life, I had silence, true silence. No one asking for money. No one guilting me into solving their problems, just peace. I started sleeping better, stopped grinding my teeth at night. I rebooked that trip to Japan. Solo this time. I savored ramen in a quiet alley shop in Kyoto, watched cherry blossoms drift in Ueno Park, and stood alone on a mountain trail in Nikko thinking, this is what freedom feels like. Back home, things changed. A few months later, my cousin Ethan reached out, the one who'd spoken up at the party. Hey, he texted, just wanted to say you inspired me. I told my brother I'm done funding his messes. He called me a jerk, but honestly, best sleep I've had in years. We grabbed coffee a week later. Turns out we weren't alone. There were others, cousins, friends of friends, who'd spent years playing the same role I had, the problem solver. The dependable one, the bank. It wasn't just me. Meanwhile, Leela kept trying to work the system. I heard through the grapevine she moved in with a friend temporarily, then tried to crowdfund her next venture. A podcast about overcoming financial hardship. You can't make this stuff up. It failed. Our parents eventually stopped defending her, at least openly. My dad sent a brief message 6 months later, hope you're doing all right. I didn't reply. My mom followed up a few weeks later with an email titled checking in. It was polite, reserved. She didn't mention money or Leela, just said she was thinking of me. It felt strange. Like they were slowly realizing I wasn't returning to the role I used to play. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. The healing began quietly. I started saying yes to things I used to decline, dinners, hobbies, weekend getaways. I signed up for a cooking class, joined a local board game club, started therapy. My therapist said something that hit deep. You were conditioned to feel responsible for everyone else's stability, but no one ever felt responsible for yours. That struck harder than I expected, because it was true. I'd spent so long keeping everyone afloat, I never stopped to ask if I wanted to swim with them at all. Now I'm swimming alone. A year later, Leela sent me a letter, a real one. Handwritten. She said she didn't agree with how I handled things, but she was starting to see why I broke. She apologized, kind of, said she was working a steady job now. Trying to improve, I didn't respond. Maybe one day I will, maybe not. Setting boundaries doesn't mean locking every door forever, but it does mean I choose when and how they open. My 36th birthday was quiet. Only a handful of close friends, a pizza, and a quirky cake shaped like a ninja helmet. No speeches. No one asked for anything. No one expected a bank transfer, just laughter. Ease. For once the day was truly about me. And it was enough. It's been a year since the night I said, not anymore. Since I handed that envelope to my attorney. Since I stopped being the one keeping everything and everyone together. Sometimes I replay that moment in my mind. The expression on Leela's face. The hush that fell over the room. The way my hands stayed steady. People say time mends all wounds. I don't believe that. Time doesn't mend. It just gives you room to rebuild if you're willing to put in the effort. And I've been putting in the effort. I've learned that guilt isn't love. That being needed isn't the same as being appreciated. That sharing blood doesn't give someone the right to sap your soul. For years, I thought saying no made me selfish. Now I know saying no is what saved me. I used to gauge my worth by how useful I was, how much I provided, how much I endured without crumbling. I thought that's what family meant. Duty, selflessness, being the anchor. But anchors don't get thanked. They just get weighed down. Now I ask myself different questions. Do I feel at peace? Am I choosing this, or am I being pushed into it? Is this love, or is it obligation masquerading as care? It's changed everything. I no longer take calls that leave me uneasy. I no longer lend money out of guilt. I no longer show up to family gatherings just to prove I'm still part of the group, because I am part of a group. But it's one I've built, deliberately, intentionally, with people who see me not just what I can offer them. And the irony, the world didn't collapse when I stopped rescuing everyone. They adapted. Leela found a job. My parents sorted things out, and I found something I hadn't felt in ages. Freedom, not just from them, from the version of myself I thought I had to be. People still ask sometimes, will you ever reconcile? Maybe, if things shift. If the dynamic shifts. But I don't owe that to anyone. I owe myself peace. That comes first now. The biggest change, though, I no longer feel the need to justify myself. Before, every boundary came with an explanation, a defense, a desperate attempt to be understood. Now, no is enough. I can't help with that is enough. I'm not available is enough. And if someone tries to guilt me, I let the silence answer. I've noticed something else, too. The people who respected the new boundaries, they stayed. Ethan, my cousin, still checks in. A colleague from work invited me to his wedding and didn't ask for a dime, just wanted me there. A neighbor I hardly knew before now drops by with coffee and tailies from her garden. These are the people I build with now. No demands, no scorekeeping, just mutual respect. I wish I'd learned this sooner. I wish I'd known that love without boundaries is just control in disguise. That giving without limits leads to exhaustion, not connection. But I know it now, and that's enough. The other day, I got a letter from someone unexpected. Leela's ex-husband. We'd barely spoken in years, but he wrote to say thank you. Apparently something I said to Leela long ago about accountability. About not depending on others to fix your messes. Stuck with her. She'd told him recently that she was finally trying to live differently, trying to earn things instead of expect them. He didn't know about the party. Just said he heard I'd set a boundary, and he respected that. Said it gave him the courage to set some boundaries of his own. That felt good, not because I need approval, but because maybe, just maybe, me saying enough gave someone else the strength to do the same. And that's the thing they don't tell you. Setting boundaries doesn't just protect you. It shows others they can too. So here I am. 36 years old. No family drama clogging my phone. No hidden financial burdens weighing on me. Just me, my dog, my job, my peace. And a calendar filled only with things I choose. The birthday party was meant to celebrate me. And in the end, it did. Not with gifts or speeches, but with a choice, a moment, a line, and I'm never going back. 16 months after the party, I received a small package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a child's drawing, crayons on flimsy paper, a crooked house, 2 stick figures holding hands, one labeled me, the other uncle, in the corner Sophie, age 6. No note, no signature, just that. I sat with it for a long time, longer than I expected. I hadn't thought about Leela's kids in months. I told myself they weren't my responsibility, that I couldn't save everyone. That distance was necessary. But holding that paper, I remembered Sophie's giggle. The way Liam used to doze off on my shoulder when they came over. Small things. Real things. A part of me wondered, had Leela sent it, or had Sophie found an old address? Either way, it struck me somewhere I thought I'd sealed off. I didn't reach for my phone, didn't rush to fix anything. But I placed the drawing on the fridge, just in case I ever decide to open a door.